Hello, this is Irene Hanna with a final update on FiZ Food Intolerance Zero, an app to aid in the assessment of food intolerances. And this project has been developed for the Master of Cross-Disciplinary Art and Design at UNSW. And I'm speaking to you from the foodintolerancezero.com website, which is essentially the project's documentation from pitch to prototype. And I would like to walk you through the prototype, but before I do that, I'd like to bring your attention to the process page, where you'll see a couple of other earlier iterations of the prototype development over the course of 12 weeks, and the process I went through to get from user story to the final prototype at week 12, and the vertical slice development. So a diagram here just showing my choice of the 4 vertical slices I chose for development, and most of them are actually developed for the individual suffering from food intolerances. And although other actors do come in and will be developed later on. Let's have a look here at the wireframe diagram, which was a very useful way of getting a feel for the flow, the navigational flow. And down below, the war room is a gallery of images of sketches and research and experimentations, some which worked and some that didn't, as well as some key resources and tools and some online courses that I undertook to get to this point of the prototype's development. So let's have a look now at the prototype, and I'll click back on the solutions page, and you'll see that the prototype actually takes a couple of seconds to load onto the screen. Now, being a prototype, not all the buttons are clickable, so if we just click here on the center of the screen here, you'll see that the highlighted areas are the clickable hotspots. And at the moment we are logged in as Jane, and Jane is really a fictitious persona that really helped us to understand the problem of food intolerances from a user's point of view, as well as her needs. And let's imagine for a moment that we are Jane, and Jane has just eaten something, so she'll be able to log that in from the shortcut add food button straight from the dashboard, and she'll have a recent list of the foods that she eats frequently or has eaten recently, but this time she has eaten sushi, so she'll click on sushi, and FiZ will prompt her for only the problematic ingredients that are flagged for high chemical content in sushi. So she doesn't have to scroll through a long list of irrelevant ingredients. She will also be prompted to enter her portion size, and if she has eaten that food at this moment, the current time there will indicate it will automatically log that time. Otherwise she can change it to a previous time if she's logging this in later in the day, and she'll click OK and I'm done. Now, later in the day, she does experience a reaction, so she can access that quick add reaction here from the dashboard, or I'll bring your attention to the add menu, where she can actually add a number of other cofactors which are listed here. Stress is a big trigger of reactions, as well as exercise, environmental factors such as dust or pollen or even cleaning agents, as well as any medication that she might have taken that falls outside of the standard daily medication that she would have logged in her initial profile. So let's log a reaction in. So here she has a recent list of reactions, but this time she has experienced a new reaction, that is abdominal pain, and she'll be prompted to record the intensity of this pain, as well as the time she experienced the reaction, so now, or she can change the time, click OK, and I'm done. Now, that's, I guess, the 2 vertical slices that I developed for the data entry aspect of the app, but there is also the analysis aspect, which is where the bulk of the development actually occurred. And the first view here is a sparkline model, And that shows really Jane's reactions, and also the peaks of her chemical intakes over the course of a day. And because we don't know the accurate science on the half-lives of these chemicals, as well as what really happens in the body once these chemicals are ingested, we really don't have a true indication of these exact peaks and troughs. But what this graph does well, I think, is it visually shows the peaks when she's eaten something with a high level, in this case of amines, and the depletion in the body over time before she's eaten something else with a high level of amines, and so on. It shows here the cofactors mapped according to the time, as well as the symptoms here, which you'll be able to click on to get more information, what kind of symptoms and what were the intensity of those symptoms. But let's have a look at how this looks in a more macro view. So clicking here on the bubble view, we'll see what happens over the course of a week. And a couple of my medical collaborators actually thought this was quite a useful view, as they could very quickly at a glance see what factors are at play, maybe building up and accumulating over the course of a week, and they were able to compare quite quickly what was happening from day to day, depending on the chemical levels indicated by the size of the bubbles, as well as the cofactors indicated there as well by the size of the bubbles. So we can see here that Tuesday was probably a problematic day for Jane. So let's have a look at what was going on. And the grey bubble here indicates her reaction, which is quite large, but we can also see that she was quite stressed that day, and she had quite a high intake of salicylates, probably all compounding to her reactions, where she was, prompted to take some medication to ease those reactions. And let's see how that actually looks in a different view. And this is a stacked bar view, which is a really interesting variation of the standard bar graph, because it shows these relationships quite well, these compositional relationships, in a more, in a tighter view. So we will see here that Monday and Tuesday were particularly intense days for her in terms of her reactions, and we'll be able to see that they were she had a high intake of salicylates indicated by the red, as well as her stress levels were quite high there, indicated by the purple. And she did take some medication on Tuesday, which then probably alleviated her symptoms the following day. So we need to take that into consideration. And she seems to have had quite a reaction-free, let's say, week, or no significant events. But on Saturday, she had another peak, another reaction there, which was problematic for her, probably triggered by an environmental factor. She probably did some cleaning that day. So let's see how that plays out over an animation. And this is quite an interesting way to view the course of Jane's week, because we can follow quite easily the correlations of her reactions against other chemicals and cofactors. So as the grey bar grows, we can see as well that the salicylates and the environment, as well as perhaps stress, is also correlated. And inversely, we can see that the blue glutamates and yellow amines can go up and down really without affecting her reaction. So that brings me to the end of the 4 vertical slices that are available for view in this prototype. And I encourage you to have a play around with it, and I'm very interested to hear your feedback. It's been a great journey to date, and I've learnt so much, and I look forward to developing this app further. Thank you, everybody, for your support.